Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Meet Menaca to celebrate you. Thank you so much for everyone who is on the platform, and a big thank you for people who are listening to this on Facebook. Today, we are going to do something a bit different. Julie Tushingham, a reputation coach, has kindly agreed to be our amazing host. So I am going to hand over to Julie Tushingham. Over to you.
Thank you, Menaca, and thanks for that welcome. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here today on Meet Menaca. I'm delighted to be the guest host. So welcome from wherever you're joining us from. At the beginning of this week, we all united in celebrating International Women's Day. The theme for the day was Choose to Challenge. And this has led women all over the world to choose to challenge things that before were just the social norms, whether it was diversity in leadership, empowering and helping other women and stepping up, or safety of women everywhere. It's united us all like never before. Today, as our guest speakers, we have two women who make it their life's work to empower other women. Menaca Pothalingam, a leadership coach for health professionals, author and host of this wonderful show, Meet Menaca, and Kirubai Kohout, a personal transformation coach and stylist, and they will be talking about what it means to shift your identity. Now, this is an interesting topic. Welcome to you both.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you for hosting this, and thank you for introduction.
It's an absolute pleasure. It is a very interesting topic because in these days of authenticity, shifting your identity could be misconstrued. So Menaca, what does it really mean to shift your identity?
Thank you for that question, because it is a powerful question and it had to be addressed. For me, the identity, first of all, I'll go into what identity means for me and then shifting your identity. For me, identity is about the picture we hold, the perception of who you are, the picture of what you hold of yourself will change over time. I definitely did for me. What I thought about myself, how I looked at myself as a child, to how I look at myself now has definitely changed. So sometimes we are aware of it, and at times we are just not aware of that shift has occurred. So what does happen? I think we sometimes let our experiences and others' perception leave an impact on the picture we hold of ourselves. And research suggests that we focus 2 to 3 times more on a negative experience than the positive ones. The question for us then is, are we allowing those to impact on our identity more than the positive ones? So the question to all of you who is listening today is, please take a moment and look back at your lives. Has that version of yourself changed over time? Is that version of yourself or the picture or the belief about yourself is the same what you held as a child or in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s? Or is it just the same now, or has it dramatically changed? Please feel free to share your thoughts on the chat box, which I will look at it later. Because I think that is what is shifting your identity means for me. Thank you, Julie.
So it's a question of kind of growing through your experiences and taking on board what you've learned through your life.
Yes.
Yes, and we've seen some people choose to do that, and some people do evolve. So what has made you both decide to address this topic here on the talk show today?
I think for me, how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you has a huge impact on your life, whether we know it or not. How we are seen, what we hear, and the experiences shape the image what we hold. So for me, it all starts with taking stock of what you believe about yourself. because I think the main drawback is we don't often take that time to pause, to take stock of what is actually happening. Because if
Yeah.
we don't even take stock of what is happening, how can we then change? Because to be aware is the first step for anything in life, and I think that is the issue first. And for me, being aware that at some point, being aware of that I have changed, and I at some point in my life, I suddenly also realized that I almost became this version that I didn't even recognize of myself. It was like looking at an alien when you look at a closer look at yourself or look at your mirror. So I think that was the wake up call for me to decide that, okay, something has to be done and I have to change the shift back. Thanks, Julie. Over to Kirubai.
That authenticity is very, very important, isn't it? And staying true to yourself. Kirubai, based on what Menaca has shared, what's your opinion?
Oh, thank you, Julie. I think all my growing years, I struggled with this perception of who I was and who I am. This image, I think this image that was imposed upon me is, you have to be in this way, a woman has to be this way, you have to follow. It's all about following someone else's dream. And when I started, following, and there was this, that immense feeling of not belonging anywhere. You're neither here nor there. Who are you following and what are you doing with your life? And that it came to a point I had to take stock of my life. I needed to change this person. Who is this ugly person? I don't even recognize myself. Outwardly, very nice, beautiful, masked, lovely makeup, lovely clothes, corporate, and that all that kind of fluff that you go through. But oh my God, I hated myself. So much of negativity towards myself, Julie. And if you had seen me before, you would say, is this the same person I know today? Because I completely changed who I was from then to now. And I'm so happy with myself today.
Yeah. You and I have both come from corporate backgrounds, and putting on the makeup and the suit, and that was like armor every day.
Exactly.
I challenge any woman anywhere who's ever worked in corporate to disagree slightly with that.
Okay. Yeah. And I have to tell you, professional life is no different, because I have even written articles and spoken very often about wearing a mask. Are you wearing a mask? Because that's what we do. And that's what I think exactly to the point what Kirubai mentioned, because we, put our makeups, we smile, we, become the life of our party, and we just become like that successful, strong person for everybody to see. But behind the scenes, we are very, very different people. And I think that is very common theme which runs across the spectrum. I think it's not only women, even including men. I think when I work with men, I do notice, and people do share these experiences.
Yes, we often are reminded of a picture of a swan, aren't we? It's gliding on the surface, but those little feet underneath are going like crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, all appears good. But both of you have talked about a point in your life when you took stock, when you stepped back and reflected and changed your perspective. So let me ask you both, what has happened in your life to make you do this, to get to this turning point?
Julie, I'd like to start on this.
Of course.
Because as I know, Menaca will always say she carries the crown for failure. But I think I could say I've got a bigger crown, bigger than Queen Elizabeth.
Good competition we have.
We're going to have a crown off.
Well, when I was in banking, as some of you know, and at that point, very unhappy with corporate banking. I think the only way I survived was because it was a relational banking, relationship banking, where I kind of always connected with people, customers. So that kept me afloat. But there came a point where I was like, I was so unhappy and I had to take stock.
Mm.
The rubber hit the road when I lost all my money.
Mm.
Wrong judgments, made a wrong investment. I lost all my earnings for the last 20 years. I was working in the bank. I lost my severance package, which was the wrong decision I made because the pressure was so great. I lost all my money. I was in a relationship at that point, getting to know someone. It was a failing relationship. And I hit rock bottom.
Mm.
I hit rock bottom. It was easy. It would have been easy for me to blame someone else. That relationship, the person in that relationship, or the guy who tried to cheat me in this investment. But you know what? I thank God for God because I had to stop and take stock.
Mm.
And that's why I had to change what I thought of me, because there were things, my fundamentals, my foundations were not on the right place.
Mm.
My thought processes were not in the right place.
Mm.
As someone I believed, I thought I could make those decisions, but I made all the wrong decisions. And it was at that point a great regret. It was a great regret, but I thank God for parents, I still, Asian culture, we still lived with our parents. So I had a roof over my head. I had food to eat. Sometimes I didn't even have money to run my car because I hit that kind of a place of rock bottom.
Mm. A life-changing moment for you.
Exactly.
And
Sure.
causing lots of introspection, I would think. Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I can totally relate to Kirubai there, because I think there came a point we have to make that choice whether you sink or swim. And I think that was that moment for me. And for me, it came in the form of mental illness,
Mm.
failing relationships, and I almost lost my business professionally, because what we don't understand and we often don't focus on is when we don't look after ourselves, it will long term will affect your professional lives and businesses. So personal well-being and personal satisfaction is so much more important than anything what you do, but we often don't focus on those things. And just to give some background perspective for you who is listening, I was quite a confident kid. And I'm thankful my mom is on the platform today and some of my good friends are here. So I was quite a confident kid. However, over time, my experiences had changed me. Whenever I went to the psychotherapist or psychiatrist, the first question they would say, "Oh, you had first-hand experience about war. You had to migrate twice. You had difficulties about your language barriers." So they were always connected to that. But for me, either I wasn't aware of those effects or it didn't affect me. It's only two answers I can give to those things. However, at some point, I decided to let other people's perceptions and decisions and judgments and criticism penetrate into me. And I think that's where my problem started. So I think that came across as mental illness, depression. And for me, mental illness is a huge thing and failures is a huge thing. But for me, I think that pause button had to happen for me to change. So I think it was a gift for me. I think when I had sat in a room to go up for an appointment with a psychiatrist, sitting there, I was feeling, what the hell happened to my life, really? How did I allow myself or my life to go, spiral out of control totally? And I didn't really have the will to live. And, people from the hospital had to come and see me to make sure that I continue to live, because I was suicidal at that point. And I think having a very supportive family, like Kirubai said, my parents said to me at one point, it's okay. So what if you don't have anything else? You can always come back home. And I think that is really, really important, because that structure, that belief really makes you want to carry on. And for me, I think I even wrote in my book, my daughter was perhaps the reason to breathe, because I didn't want her to have a negative experience of it. So I think that was the moment. It was, strangely enough for me, hitting that rock bottom, losing everything, and knowing I had two choices, whether to change and make sure I become the person I wanted to be, or to get stuck and sink totally. So I think that was my defining moment for me to change, Julie.
Mm-hmm. You have both raised how important it is to have the right people around you during such a huge personal struggle for both of you. Did you have to make some tough choices with who you surrounded yourself with, and how did you do that?
Yes, okay. For me, it was the environment. I suddenly realized, firstly, that impact the environment was having on me. That was my first thing. And then I had to make changes, and it wasn't easy. As I said before, I was very lucky with my immediate family. They accepted me for who I am and really disregarded everything around me. And then I had these close-knit friends from college and from childhood, and some couple of friends like Kirubai, who is a co-speaker today. They disregarded everything what was happening. And my friends would often tell me, Menaca, we don't really care how much money you have in the bank, what titles you have, what about your marital status. We just love you the way you are, and we will support you whatever decision you make. And that was a huge thing. But however, I also had people who wanted me to be in a certain way. You had to have the title of a doctor, and you have to practice dentistry. You have to behave in a certain way. You cannot go out of relationships. You have to speak English in a certain way. You have to act as if you're successful, even if you're suffering. Unfortunately, I had to eliminate all those people from my circle to survive. And that's the truth. For me to be able to speak today, people see me and then think, oh, she's very confident, very successful. She's always smiling. But the journey is never that easy. But I think it's the choice you make, who you want to be surrounding yourself with, and what kind of people. And then, of course, my mentors, my coaches. I've been very, very blessed in that way, because from my dental school principal to speaking coaches to mentors, and even today, a lot of people who I have come across in life, they have always helped me, shaped me. And I hope I have reinvested in those people and been there for them as well. So I think it's a two-way street when you are talking about environment. I think, but I think in a gist, I can say what goes around comes around. You be for that something to those people, and they will give that back to you when you need it. But you don't go into a relationship thinking or hoping you're going to get something out of that relationship. You go into the relationship in the form of giving, and then the rest automatically happens. And if they don't want to give it back, that's okay. And I think I'm very lucky in that way. Early on, my dad used to always tell, the same people might not help you, but someone else will. And I call my mom the social butterfly of the family. So she always offered help for everyone, and even my grandmom, who I have high regards. I think we learn these things early on, but sometimes we need reminders for ourselves to go back and make sure that we change our environment to nourish ourselves.
I agree. Yes, and you spoke so supportively and positively about how you need to be in an environment with no judgment. The people you surrounded yourself with supported you no matter what. Kirubai, you talked about how your parents supported you throughout your challenging time. Who else was there for you?
Julie, before I answer that question, I actually wanted to share something about to achieve this shift that we were been talking about. For me personally, was I had to accept myself. Acceptance is the first point of entry to shifting your identity. Self-judging and self-condemnation doesn't take you anywhere. But how are you going to translate that to steps that going to bring forth that fruit that you wanted to, to bear at the end of the dark tunnel you're going through? So I am actually very grateful for my corporate days, because it gave me a kind of balance, in the sense how the outside world, the corporate world, the concrete jungle world will think. It gave me an idea, and of course it gave me security at one point, and I thank God for that. But it also spurred up my thoughts about, is this what I want to do? Or is there something more that I can do? Am I built to be this corporate person, which I loved, but yet I knew deep down inside there was a dream that was bubbling within me, a dream that I wanted to realize. And then it gave me a good platform for comparison. Oh, I don't want that. I want to do something else with my life. If I didn't get a kick in my boot, I would have been very comfortable. We all are we are creatures of habit and creatures of comfort. We love that comfort. So I make no excuses for my failures, because I own it. It was my personal failures, but I'm glad today that those steps I can share with everyone, especially on the coaching platform. I openly share all my failures, all the things that I go through, I went through, my abuse. I think that because of the abuse that I went through, I could never accept myself. It was like two different people. So there was a merging that had to come. You stop, you take stock, and you think, now what is the next thing that you and I have to do? So that's where I had to kind of think what I'm going to do, and it might think a corporate person, after giving up the job, what can I do? Because banking is very, very, very specialized. I always say they think they own the world, the bankers. My husband is a banker, I must say. But, it's always in that little box. They live in that little castle, that little box that, everything is around them. So I was actually very, very lost. I couldn't think out of the box. So what the first thing I did something very, very easy. I sold cosmetics, which was
fantastic.
Which it was a no-brainer for me. I just sold. But it gave me people connection. It made me happy. It made me feel, I'm beautifying somebody else. And then I started working with myself. The people who really were around me who really helped me was, of course, in the environment of your parents. Sorry to say, all my friends gave up on me. They thought I was really going off my head, because giving up a good job and losing everything, people couldn't understand it, but it was good. I will say it is good. I spent a lot of time alone soul searching, and because I'm a woman of the faith, it was just prayer and the Bible. I read and I read and I read and started building my spiritual muscle, I would say. I started building myself up. I had a mentor. He spoke every day, half an hour. He would call me and he would encourage me. And that started building up. And after cosmetics, I started doing, why I'm saying this is because I want to bring in a very great point that today I experienced the joy of having a friendship with Menaca. I used to be a corporate trainer. After my cosmetic days, I went into corporate training. And I left everything, got married in 2010. I didn't want to do corporate training because, new country, new husband, new in-laws, outlaws, and new environment. And this niggling feeling that you're not good enough for the English crowd, for the people who speak, the native language is English. Even though, Malaysia, we speak English. But, there's always this not good enough syndrome comes. So I refused to do corporate training. I refused to go back into helping coaching. It was just one-to-one helping people with their styling and, the image.
Mm-hmm.
But when I met Menaca, and she said, I think you're more than this, Kirubai, she said. So I would recognize her today on this platform for spurring that dream and that interest and that curiosity to go back into coaching again. And I thank you, Menaca, my great friend there.
Thank you, Kirubai.
That's wonderful. Empowered women, empowering women. I just love it. Thank you, Kirubai, for sharing that with us. You are both been very brave in the face of huge challenge. You've undertaken a great amount of personal reflection along your journey, and I'm sure changed course many times. It's a learning experience, isn't it? You both talk about reflecting and the people around you. How did you actually achieve the shift, Menaca? We heard a little bit about how Kirubai did.
Sure.
What did you do?
Okay, I think it was a few steps for me. I think it was recognizing was my first thing, being aware of what was happening within me and around me, because it all starts from within you. You can blame as much as you want. Like Kirubai said, this person did that, that person did that, this happened, otherwise I would have been someone else. But the truth is, it all starts within you. So for me, it was knowing and being aware of what is happening within me and around me, taking a hard look at why it's happening, what actually happened, and how I want to change it. And then I think being able to accept and to be okay with who I am, and sometimes to be okay with not being okay, because I wrote an article very recently about being an Asian woman in a man's world, and it's for people who know me well, they all know me. I have a lot of friends equally between men and women. I have a good mix. But what was difficult at times is to be myself, because you're constantly sometimes judged, criticized for speaking up, showing up, and being yourself. And you have to be okay with that as well. And you have to be okay with who I am. These are my decisions, and this is how I want to be. And I accept myself, the imperfect myself, for who I am. And then I think I had to take a step back many times throughout this journey, take that time to analyze what I really want to do, who I really want to be, and what do I want to change in myself. Because change always happens from within you. So first I needed to think, what I really wanted to do. Once I knew it, became a bit easier, I would say, because then I could make decisions to take actions or to say something or be with people, being aligned with who I want to become. And because I knew what I am and where I wanted to go, it's like a journey. Once you know the destination, it becomes easier to take that drive or take the transport to get there. And it was like that for me. And I think then I took actions. It's not that, like Kirubai beautifully put it, it was not without failures. If for people who want to go and look at my YouTube videos, and I think that's where somewhere in the video I do speak about it. When I was in this psychiatric appointment, I wish I can tell I came out of that tall building in London and became this person I'm speaking today with you. But I'm not. That was not the journey. I had to fail many times. I had to face those criticisms and judgments many a times. It happens even today. And I have no problems with it because every single person is entitled to their own opinions, own perspectives. Provided we don't make their judgments and their perspectives our own, I think that's okay. Because, like how we are entitled for our perspectives and opinions, they are too. But we have to be, sometimes Kirubai and me, we are very close friends, as many people would have observed today for sure. But sometimes we have to agree to disagree. It's not that we agree on everything 100%. And it's the same with your family, your close loved ones, your friends, your peers, your coaches, mentees. But you have to come to that point to be okay to agree to disagree and move forward. And I think that has been my process, Julie. I hope I answered that question.
You did. You answered it beautifully. And I know I've heard you talk about resilience before, and there is such strong evidence of your resilience and how you've illustrated how that has built over time. And I would like to ask a follow-up question around how did you keep yourself going through this journey?
Yes, for sure, it was a lot of personal battles for me, mainly, I would say. And I think it is like Kirubai said as well, and I have spoken many times about it. It is deciding to be authentic. That was a major thing for me. Alliances with people to make sure that it's okay to be having alliances with people who help you, who support you, who will be there for you, but also having alliances with people who sometimes you don't agree with because because they have different perspectives, their experiences are very different. So you have to you have to be happy to accept that as well. You can't just tell, it's not like the life doesn't go like my way or the highway, because you do have to accept other people are entitled for those things. And I think that was a bigger part of it. But I think one point, if I have to tell, just being authentic, being yourself, knowing yourself, accepting yourself for who you are. And I think that is the major part for me. So for me, my values are freedom. My value is connections, and my value is progress. And actually, my daughter and we sometimes have these conversations. She's definitely smarter than how I was at that age, for sure, because she has had totally different experiences. I was almost like in a cocoon up to a level. So, and for me, that I think I love to have people around me, because that's me. I like that connections. However, I also like the freedom, and I think that was the conflict all the time. So I had to really reshape, redefine, and create that environment. To be with people, but to be with the right people. I think that was a defining moment for me as well. And because I think that made a huge difference. And I often say, and I can tell that, and most of you have been alone for the past few months, but sure. But the strange thing is, there was a point in my life I was always surrounded by people, and I have been alone most of my time for the past couple of years, and I never felt lonely. But when I was surrounded by all these people, I still felt very lonely. So I think knowing that difference, I didn't know. Actually, I didn't, because I thought if you don't want to feel lonely, you surround yourself with people, because that's what my understanding was at that time. But now I know being alone and being lonely are two different things.
Mm.
You can be alone and you can feel very fulfilled, or you can be surrounded by people and still feel very lonely. And I think that is also really important to understand if you want to become the person you want to become.
Right. Yes, yes, I agree. I think you outlined some of your values there, and being connected with people who think like you, who have similar values, is very, very important. Kirubai, a follow-up question for you, along, well, the same lines as the one I asked Menaca. What kept you on track through these challenges? You talked about imposter syndrome. You talked about changing your career. You talked about changing the people around you. What kept you focused when things got tough?
I think knowing that I have a purpose in all this, and I would really love to help someone else with finding and discovering their purpose. So going back a little like a couple of years ago, and during the time when I also met Menaca, and we were just talking. We were just talking, and we found our values. In a way, there was a synergy in our values. Like Julie, how you have now come and synergized with us, and it's a great threesome. And so that values, we one day were sitting and talking, and we said, I think let's do something with this. And thus the birth of shifting your identity inside out came forth, the course. But prior to that, one day she came to my home and said, I need to do something with you. She's always, her brain is always ticking. It's never a moment of just having a cup of tea and some biscuits.
I like that. Yeah, I need to do something with you.
Yeah, she said, let me do this. Let me do this value test with you. I said, what is the value test? Let's enjoy each other's company and have a cup of tea. No. She said, you need to do this. So she outlined this value test with me, and lo and behold, those were the values that I kind of followed without knowing, blindly knowing. It is an excellent test. And I was so happy that somehow or other, I kind of fell into it. And that's why I kind of embraced what I'm doing today, because of the values of the acceptance and freedom, and the stability, all these things that were needed to bring me into a complete picture. So we even incorporated that in our course. And that's the kind of synergy both of us have.
Right, and that's what's kept you going on the course forward. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and kept me going all my life. I didn't know. Sometimes you just accidentally fall into that spheres of influence of being in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely, yes, yes.
And I would like to share this, but it's kind of very strange, how destiny has it for you. Meeting her at a networking group, and one of my friends, and some of you know, Shira, spoke about Menaca to me. She said, oh, if you've been to that, you would meet Menaca. So I said, oh no, I don't think I would be able to meet her, because it's a very big group of people. And I did meet Menaca, and I said hi and bye, and just walked away, and then met her at the coffee shop. She heard me tell someone that I speak Tamil, and she turned around and gave me this look and said, oh, you speak Tamil? I said, yes, I speak Tamil. So we said, okay, we'll exchange numbers, and we walked away, and I met her on the tube, and the rest is history.
It was,
Two, when
it
two,
was meant to be, absolutely meant to be. I think when things like that happen, you have a choice, don't you? You either
yeah,
step up to it or you step back from it. And I'm so pleased that you stepped up.
yeah, I stepped up, and we kind of built a very slow relationship.
Mm.
And you know, when the time that she was going through some difficulties, I could just feel it in my spirit that something was not going right with her. And
Mm-hmm.
likewise, she will always say, you're very quiet, or you know, it's kind of, this is the kind of things that two women, you know, sometimes we take it for granted, but not imposing on each other, but you know, helping each other in times of need, and empowering one another, and being there without any judgment.
That's a,
Any judgment.
a
And
key thing, just to be there for
so
each
when judgment comes, Julie, then you try to tear down each other.
other. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's not an easy place to shift to being non-judgmental. It does take effort.
A lot of
Because
effort.
humans, we have somewhat of a default, don't we?
Yes.
But once you're there and you can really be open and present with someone without judgment, it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah. And I choose to challenge each person on this platform today, men and women likewise, that let's build one another up.
I love that. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Let's
Yeah, I
build and not
second.
tear down.
Of course.
Build.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to give it to you because I have to say something because I know Kirubai mentioned that she used to call me, and I am really proud of it. You know, however your perceptions are, because she was mainly calling initially just to check that I'm alive.
Mm.
I'm still breathing. I'm still will turn up, and her friend is still will be there.
Mm.
And I owe my life to her for that, because just knowing that somebody is going to call you to check. And my mom to date, even to till date, every single morning, sometimes even before I get out of bed, my mom would call to check I'm okay, I'm all right. And I know that I can speak to my father and mother anytime I want to. And I have friends who I can just send a text. And I have a couple of friends I must mention, who I can call in the middle of the night, and I have sometimes, or just text them saying, I'm not feeling that okay, I'm a bit stressed, and they would immediately call me back.
Mm.
And I think Krish is not there today, but certain things during the pandemic, my mom was hospitalized. She had a heart problem, and it's like our family is quietly close knit. And because I was very quiet, and people have come to know in my circle when I'm very quiet, I perhaps am taking time off to deal with things. So he's just texted asking, "Are you okay?" Because him being a psychologist, I had to, he just offered his help, and I still remember one day he called me and he was on the phone well past midnight, and I had to tell, "It's okay, I'll be okay. Don't worry about it. I can deal with it." But to have those people is like a gift. And so thank you so much, Kirubai, for being there through a very difficult time.
Likewise.
There is nothing like it, is it, than knowing that you have people in your life that you can depend on, who are there for you. Very powerful. Now, aside from the fantastic benefit of your friendship, I have to ask you, what were some of the other benefits of this transformation?
So for me, the transformation has been twofold, I would say. It's like both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
One, of course, was very beneficial for me. I always say to my friends and my trainees, it's like almost like taking a full circle. I was this confident person. I really didn't care much about what people thought, or what I spoke. I could express myself freely. That's what it is about. And I think I have I'm still work in progress in many aspects, but I think I've almost come full circle to say what I want to say. And many people on the platform will know today is the first day I decided to speak about being suicidal. I do speak about my mental health difficulties very publicly, but however, for whatever reason, I never crossed that barrier. But I think I am definitely coming to that point slowly but surely to express myself for whoever I am and being okay, not being accepted. And that's the reason I never wrote an article. But when somebody approached me and asked, we want an article from an Asian British woman, would you be happy to write about it? I paused for a minute and then I said, well, I have to show up the way I am expecting everybody else to show up. So I just decided to take the plunge and write about it. So I think so that has been my strength. It is, of course, I still have the imposter syndrome. People who know me well, including yourself, you know that. And I'm a recovering perfectionist. Never it's good enough. And I still become nervous whether anyone believes or not. Every single time I have to appear on the TV or speak on a platform like this or do something, I always become a bit nervous. And might be it is good in a way because athletes, if you ask Mo Farah and other people, they will also say, but they will say we are excited because it's the same signals you have because your heart rate is high, you sweat a bit, so it's about how you interpret those feelings. And I think again I spoke to one of my friend Rupak, he has been here before, and he said, I think the best advice sometimes you get is just focus on the people who are going to benefit from your speech and doing that. And I think that is the second part of the coin for me, because being able to fulfill my purpose, being able to make that difference for somebody else, and wanting to help someone else has definitely been part of that transformation. So I think for me it is two things. I'm definitely benefiting from it, but I always try to make sure that other people around me are also benefiting from it.
Right. Thank you, Menaca. Kirubai, what would you add to as benefits from this transformation to what Menaca said?
I like myself, maybe.
I think that's great. Yeah.
I've learned to love myself. Yeah, learn to love myself, and this is what you get. I'm authentic, not hiding behind anything, no pretense. And I think these things. I think what I can say is, Julie, is these are things. This is growing realities in your life. And if you have discovered this very young, it's great. If you have started young, this self-realizations, this acceptance, if you've started young, kudos to you.
Yeah. Challenge every parent to take up that challenge with their children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Help the children, even help themselves. It has to start with themselves first, and then you are able to help someone else discover.
Yeah. I'm conscious of our time here. We're having a fantastic discussion, and I want to leave some room for Q&A.
You put two women talking.
Oh, well, yes. It's true. But I would like to ask you to briefly sum up what you would like people to leave this discussion with today. What would you like their takeaways to be?
So you're asking me, Julie?
Yes. Why don't you kick it off, Kirubai?
Okay, let me kick it off. All right. Okay. The only takeaway I would personally say is a person must be big enough to accept their mistakes, courageous enough to profit from them, and strong enough to correct them. My name is Kirubai, and I'm here to help you. Thank you.
Powerful words. Thank you, Kirubai. Thank you. Menaca, the ball's in your court.
Definitely. For me, I have to say it's a smile. So people can remember, smile more. Self-acceptance is powerful. Being mindful of every step you take and every thought you have is important. Identify the environment you are in, people you are surrounding yourself with. Make sure you learn every day, even 5 pages or even a single page, or listen to a podcast, learn every day. and then empower yourself and others by being authentically you. So for me, it is just, I can sum it up in one word: just be unapologetically yourself, and be yourself, speak for yourself, and do what you mean, and say what you mean, and just be aligned with who you are.
Mm-hmm. Realize that you are enough.
Absolutely.
Yes. Powerful words. Thank you both, and thank you for such an inspiring discussion. Enlightening. There are lots of words I could use, but that's the first that came to mind. It's been super. Before we go to Q&A, I'd like to let everyone know what next week's topic is. We have a guest speaker, Amparo Villamin, and she will be talking about living with young onset of Parkinson's. So please make sure you tune in for that and join us next week. Before we go to Q&A, I'd like to ask Dr. Kantha for a word of thanks.
I'm Dr. Kantha Niranjan. On behalf of Meet Menaca today, I would like to thank two very powerful speakers, Menaca and Kirubai, presented very beautifully, who have told us what is their journey in life and what they learned, and made us to realize what we have to learn and how transformation took place. What an amazing experience. Many of us are now connected by both these women in this forum, and I'm very, very grateful for them for educating others as well as sharing their experience, and I wish them both very best. Excellent presentation, and thank you very much for the amazing talk today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kantha. It means a lot. Thank you.
Very eloquently put. Thank you, Dr. Kantha. Right, so we do have a few minutes for Q&A on both platforms. Look at that. At 4 o'clock, we will be just going to Zoom, but if anyone is in the Facebook audience and has some questions to send in for our two fantastic speakers, please go ahead and send those through. Any questions at all? Let's see what we have.
Dr. Navaratnam want to ask question.
Okay.
Let me ask a question that was really nagging at me throughout the whole discussion. I have to ask this. Yes, please raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question, or send it in through the chat.
I think Dr. Navaratnam is asking.
Oh, yes, I can see that. Go ahead, Dr. Navaratnam.
Good evening to all.
Good evening.
I'm glad that I was able to join, even though I was late. It's nice to hear how two ladies who have developed self-confidence and communication skills, and sharing it with a lot of people who are lucky to join today. I've got my daughter, Janani, here, who will benefit a great deal from this kind of involvement. I like what Menaca said about, if you can be of help to somebody, that will release you from self-concern. Now, when I see patients, I'm a practicing rheumatologist. I may be an octogenarian, but I do practice. And when I see patients with their problems, I do not feel any problem myself. I personally am fit, and I feel lucky that I'm able to advise other people how to be fit. And the sharing of experiences like this helps a lot of people. And I wish there'll be more audience joining today. I was happy to see Kantha Niranjan and other participants. And I met Menaca accidentally in one of the TV shows some couple of years ago. And we have been friends since, because we have a lot of common interests, helping others, trying to develop friendship and be of use. We are both members of an organization called SCOT, trying to help Tamils in Sri Lanka who are suffering from poverty and negligence or political negligence. and we are working together in those areas. And I wish I could join every Saturday at 3 o'clock, and I will try. And thank you for inviting me, Menaca. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Narotam. He's a very senior consultant doctor, and he does a lot of good things for the community. So I'm humbled and honored that you decided to come, not only come and say a kind word about us. So thank you so much for being there, and lovely to meet you, Janani.
Great to meet your daughter, and we're so pleased you could join us. Thank you, and thanks for sharing your comments there.
I did put this in the chat, this question, either to Menaca or Kirubai. The value testing, as it was mentioned, is it to do with something like a depression scale? Because depression is self-devaluation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's about aligning what is the most important thing. What makes you you is your core yourself. So it takes it is like when I do the course, it's like it's a 3 different ways to do it. Like most it takes anything up from half a day to 2 days to finish the exercises. But it's definitely not the depression scale.
Okay, I just took it literally. All right.
Yeah, of course. That's of course. Thanks for asking the question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. If that was a question about values, I think the sound cut out for me here. Values are so important, and they're not often something that we explore by ourselves. And it's sometimes not easy to even answer that question ourselves. You so often need a coach or a mentor to walk you through that. So it does test your core personality traits. So we're coming up to 4 o'clock now. We'll be leaving the Facebook platform and going straight to Zoom. So I would like to, Menaca has this wonderful phrase at this time, which I'm going to steal from her and use absolutely. It's time to say goodbye to our Facebook viewers, and I'd ask people to stay with Zoom. So until we see you again, which I hope will be next week, when we'll be talking about that young onset of Parkinson's, a very interesting discussion, I'm sure, and talk from a guest speaker. Until next time, stay safe, stay happy, and keep smiling.